Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld, along with Judge Jeanine Pirro, Harold Ford Jr., Jesse Waters, and she paddle boards with a Q-tip. Dana Perino, the 5. My doppelganger, George Clooney, and Nancy Pelosi dropping nukes that could incinerate Joe Biden's tanking campaign. The big guy woke up this morning thinking he had survived a Democrat mutiny. Then Nancy shows up on his favorite show, Morning Breath, to knife him in the back.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short.
Do you want him to run?
I want him to do whatever he decides to do. Let's just hold off. Whatever you're thinking, either tell somebody privately, but you don't have to put that out on the table until we see how we go this week.
All right. Pelosi not in the mood to elaborate more on her Biden backstab.
Do you believe that him waiting so long to make this decision could harm the
I'm not going to be making any comments in the hallway about the fate of our nation. Am I speaking English to you? I'm not going to be making any statements about any of that right now in the hallway. To a person I've never met before, a total stranger.
That's interesting. Not long after Pelosi shivved Biden, George Clooney came out with an op-ed calling for new Democratic nominees, saying, quote, "It's devastating to say it, but the Joe Biden I was with 3 weeks ago at a fundraiser was not the Joe, quote, big effing deal Biden of 2010. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate." The A-lister talking about how that swanky Hollywood fundraiser he headlined where Barack had to yank a frozen Joe off the stage. Speaking of the Big O, one of his former speechwriters was there, too. He says that moment wasn't a cheap fake.
It was not surprising to any of us who were at the fundraiser. I was there. Clooney was exactly right. And every single person I talked to at the fundraiser thought the same thing, except for the people working for Joe Biden, or at least they didn't say that.
So, Jesse, he was there weeks ago, didn't say a thing. Now he says something. Shouldn't we wait till Brad Pitt weighs in? Or at least Tony Danza?
At least Tony Danza. That was a great show. Was it Who's the Boss?
Yeah, no, I mean, I Taxi.
Oh, Taxi. You're a little older than I am. Sorry, Greg, I had to go there. Yeah, I think he was directed by Barack to do it. And because he's their point man in Hollywood. And Barack was at the same fundraiser. They all say the same thing. So he goes out and says this. And then the minute he drops it, all of Obama's guys, Axelrod, the speechwriter, rush to CNN and they say this. And then another Obama speechwriter just called this guy a cranky old senile crabby fool. But he did a great job as president, so it's time to get out. And then you have the Hillary team also leaking great polls that shows Hillary's doing well over Trump. And Begala and Carville are out on CNN just blasting Biden. It's like a pincer movement. In the military, you get two armies just kind of squeezing the enemy into a killing field. That's what's happening. And then you have Joe Biden saying, "I've decided." And Pelosi says, "Oh, no, he hasn't." You haven't decided, Joe. And you're on the clock. It seems like Joe's realizing that the presidency is not the most powerful thing in Washington. The Democratic machine is. We had a guest on last night that says there's going to be a whistleblower that's going to come forward soon. Maybe from the Security Council, maybe from the White House staff that says this guy's falling asleep in the Situation Room. This guy's putting our national security at risk. And that is going to be the thing that really, really does it.
Interesting, but somewhat mundane analysis. Harold, how long did it take you to write Clooney's op-ed?
Look, I think it's good to be back around the table. I was out last night at dinner, and someone told me I didn't say that they watched the show, so I want to make sure I do three things. First, I like Clooney. I don't know him. I love his movies. But I'm more concerned, and I think that the White House should be as concerned, and if not more concerned, about this polling data that shows single moms in Wisconsin, single moms in Michigan who are raising their families, worried about the cost of food and rent and gas, who go to see George Clooney movies. It's interesting that my party will be moved by some of this stuff out in Los Angeles, and that's a source of fundraising for us, and I appreciate that. But what about the communities burdened by homelessness and crime? That's what the numbers are saying. They don't believe that Joe Biden is not committed to a lot of these issues. They just don't believe he can beat they saw with their own eyes that the preoccupation they had with his age means he may not be able to beat Donald Trump come fall time. If you're a woman, worried about where you live, if you're going to have reproductive right options. That's what this campaign is about. And unfortunately, we've spent the last 12 days talking about the political problems, and then some of us are being criticized for talking about a problem that he created. But for the performance the president had at the debate, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Exactly.
So I understand where Mr. Clooney's coming from. I think the most significant news of the day is the way that former Speaker Pelosi has managed her words here in the last several days, in the last few hours. Because it's becoming increasingly clear to me that maybe Obama, maybe Clinton, maybe Schumer and Jeffries don't have the fortitude to go and say to the president, it might take this former speaker, who's proven to be the most formidable leader Democrats have had over the last 10, 15 years, to be the one to deliver the final message to President Biden that this is not your time, sir. You've served well, but your service journey may have to take a detour here.
Judge, all this stuff with Clooney, voters don't care, but what like Harold said, it's about the donors and the fundraising. That's the scary part for the Dems.
It is about the donors and the fundraising, but I have to tell you, what took Clooney so long? I mean, that fundraiser was 3 weeks ago. The debate was 2 weeks ago. What's with Pelosi? Whatever he decides, that's the way it's going to be, and we'll go with it. Well, he already decided. He said last weekend, he said on Monday, he says every day, I'm in this. So it tells me that there's something going on behind the scenes, some kind of offer of, Joe, we want to protect your legacy from the first term, and, the carrot and not the stick. The stick gets, later down the road. But Chuck Todd, just as an aside, has a podcast, and he said that 2 years ago, a senior Biden cabinet member said he can't run again. Biden can't run again the way he is. So everybody knows this. George Clooney waits until 51 million Americans watch the debate. Then it's safe. What is it about the Democrats that they are so in lockstep, they're afraid to come out and say what every American already knows? I mean, this guy hasn't had a presser since last November, and we're in an election year. And all of a sudden, it's like they're saying, well, it doesn't look good. You got one senator, this guy Mike Bennett, who's saying, this is the first time in recent modern history that a Republican is up at this point in the race. So, I mean, the fact that they need to talk about it tells me that they're offering a lot of things to Joe. But I think the final step is that at the convention, they may be committed to Joe, but if in their conscience they cannot support Joe, then everything changes with the delegates.
Dana, you're a woman, and congratulations.
Well, are we still calling it that?
Yeah, I think so. What is your analysis as a woman of Nancy Pelosi's strange and pained response?
Well, I think so. She came in and poured the gasoline, and then Clooney said, let me light the match. I'll help you out. It did remind me, though, like when Peter says, where do you want to eat? And I say, I don't care. You pick. Whatever you decide. And he says, great, let's go to Chinese. I'm like, I don't want to eat that.
Yeah.
You know what she wants to say.
Right.
I think that she came out, first of all, she booked herself on Morning Joe. We found out about that. Why do you go on Morning Joe? Is because people might say, why do you book yourself on Fox and Friends? Do you think Trump's watching? Well, we know that Biden watches Morning Joe. So Speaker Emerita, that's what you refer to her as, not as former Speaker. Speaker Emerita goes on Morning Joe and says this because I think you're right. It's all coordinated. And imagine this also in Hollywood. They're being asked to throw good money after bad. And at some point, you stop writing checks. And they all are realizing we have to try to do something different. The surprise might be that the Robert Hur special counsel audio tape actually finally leaked.
Right.
Yes.
Right, because that would be something that was like, whoa, wow. And I think that Clooney, remember in the old days when we were kids watching TV, and you would see the people in a boat or in a log, and they're headed towards the falls, and they don't know it, but then they have a sense, so they start to paddle this way. They're trying to get out of it. He's trying to prevent that. The other thing that this has done is that because of it's Joe Biden and his team's fault, this entire campaign now, this entire election is about Biden's age. We're not talking about immigration or crime or even inflation right now. That's like purely about, can this person actually be president for the next 4 years? When the actual question should be, can he be president for the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, 4 days.
Hours, minutes, seconds.
There you go. You win. But it just reminds you, actors only play leads in movies. He did not lead.
I would say also, if I were the Biden team, I'd be very nervous about this press conference tomorrow night because they have raised the bar so high for him to clear, and everyone will be nitpicking it, and all the Obama people will throw barbs.
It's a big boy press conference.
Oh, yeah.
To add one other thing to it, what Clooney did, the real people here are the delegates. If the delegates decide that they want to detach themselves or divorce themselves from supporting Joe Biden, they have every right to do that. So this notion that they are somehow or another inseparable is just not true, that him and the delegates. They are the most important people in this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Harold. That really helped.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.